Well, it wasn't easy. People didn't want to hear about it. And they didn't want to hear about it because, after all, we deal with something which is so unprecedented. The cruelty, the horror, the pain, the suffering, the agony. And here we were, a few witnesses who managed somehow to remain alive and bear witness. It wasn't easy.
President Obama, Mr. Wiesel, issued a statement today, I'm sure you're aware of this, on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, saying in part, quote, "The United States, along with the international community, resolves to stand in the way of any tyrant or dictator who commits crimes against humanity and stay true to the principle of never again." Syria, right now in crisis, thousands of civilians have been killed at the hands of government forces in that country. Let's start in Syria. Is the United States doing enough right now there?
President Obama is sensitive to that tragedy, to the memory of that tragedy. He asked me to accompany him for the first time to Buchenwald and then to the museum in Washington. And each time he was profoundly moved, he was shaken. And I'm convinced, deeply convinced, that when he makes such a pledge, he means to keep it. Something must be done to stop the bloodshed, the mass murder which are still going on in this world. If anyone had told me when I was liberated in 1945 by the American army that I will still have to fight racism, hatred, and fanaticism, and violence, I wouldn't have believed it. And here we are, we still have to fight to bring some kind of peace, some kind of reason, some kind of honor to human history.
When you spoke at the Holocaust Museum in Washington last April, you voiced concerns about the future of Israel. You said in part, quote, "So in this place, we may ask, have we learned anything from it?" Speaking of the Holocaust. If so, how is it that Assad is still in power? How is it that the #1 Holocaust denier, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, still president of Iran, he who threatens to use nuclear weapons to destroy the Jewish state? How concerned are you about the future of Israel today?
I'm, of course, terribly concerned, because Israel is the only place where Jews have after the war come to build their own state 2,000 years after they had lost it to the Romans. And if God forbid something happens to that state, the Jewish people would not be able to cope with it, to take it, to deal with it. Two catastrophes in our memory is impossible to bear. And therefore, really, we are so committed to the security of Israel, and we try whatever we can do to help it in honor and in peace. But still, I'm worried. Of course, I'm worried. At the same time, of course, I'm worried whenever other tragedies occur in this world, and there are so many.
Do you feel like this country's commitment to Israel is the same as it was a decade ago?
I believe so. Every American president since 1948 was committed to Israel's security and survival. And that goes for Democrats, that Republicans. It is clear. No American president really has ever even conceived the possibility not to be for Israel's survival.
When you were in Israel recently, a newspaper there reported you were writing a new book with President Obama. First of all, is that true?
But we had a plan together. I had lunch with him a few times last year, and that we spoke to each other as two friends do. And at one point, either he or I or together, we decided, why not do a book on it? And it was much before the elections, but we did not want to deal with it or to do it before the elections. It would have become a campaign book. So we decided to wait. So the idea was there, and both of us, I think, agreed. And one day we shall do it. I don't know when. After all, he is busy.
Before I let you go, sir, really quickly, the legacy, if you will, of the tragedy, of the Holocaust, how has that evolved over the decades since you started your work?
I have begun when I wrote in 1958, as you said, Night. It came out first of all in Yiddish and then in French. And I have published since, I think, 60 volumes of other things. But if I had not written Night, I wouldn't have written any other book. I think I do know that the memory of those years must have an impact on our lives, and on our decisions, and on our relationships.
author, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Elie Wiesel. Thank you so much, sir. Always a pleasure. Take care of yourself.
Thank you very much.